Well, hello. We are here. We are here. We are here to talk champions. So I'm excited, Jeremy. We've dabbled around a little bit. We're ready to talk a little champions. Really talk rules, mechanics. Um, share a little bit of what we know. And I think now is a good time. Andy um, Burtis has put out the first Mantic video for today, and I think they talk about setting up your game and getting ready to play Kings of War Champions. So as part of Mantic Champions Week or Mantic Kings of War Champions Week, we figured we'd kick it off with some of our own thoughts. But
yeah, I think people have been really curious to hear about the game and more concrete. What's in the box? More concrete rules discussion now that people have had maybe you had a chance to test it at Adepticon like you did, Rob. Or, like you said, Andy's now starting to release some more gameplay-focused videos as we get closer and closer to... I mean, it should be out here in a couple of weeks, I think. So
it's shipping next Monday.
Yeah, so I think we're basically we're at the eve, Champions Eve, waiting for that Christmas Day to open all our our boxes.
I'm super excited about it. But before we get there, though, maybe we just do a quick, because we haven't really talked other than outside of Adepticon, and I know there's a gazillion hours, I think 15 hours of content from Adepticon that we're sifting through.
Yeah.
But what's going on in your neck of the woods in terms of the community?
So we just had the April Fool's tournament in Reno, the Jackalopes April Fool's tournament. So they've now started to host their tournaments at the University of Reno. Nick is a professor there. So we actually have a nice space there that can grow as far as tournament growth. So they're looking at the spring April Fool's Jackalope tournament to be their marquee event of the year, their tournament that they want to build. They also hold something in November usually, but November in the Sierras, weather-wise, you just never know. So April, and it's a fun theme. You get to either use a jackalope or a special creature as part of your tournament. And it looks like Blake Robertson, everyone's favorite Elvis, Discount Elvis, is taking over the running of that tournament. You're muted.
It's not Discount Elvis.
It's the best Elvis.
It's after the 67 comeback tour, but before Fat Elvis dies on the toilet. It's in that zone.
It's his one last go at trying to make it, He's working out, he's doing his karate.
He still got it.
He still got it.
He still got the
juice.
Yeah, for sure.
So they just had a great tournament this weekend. And we're hoping to grow that as one of our bigger, sort of the biggest Reno event, since we have the space there at the university, and we can get that space relatively cheap. So it's a great opportunity to grow an event. So that happened. Masters is on the horizon. We have a Masters Minute, which will be coming out this week, which will talk about how you sign up for Best of the Rest. We'll also be highlighting some food choices, some great food options, and then also the chairs will be going over making sure we have our mercenary process all ready to go now that teams are finalizing their positions. So,
and that's a great segue just to remind people, if you're interested in being a merc at the event, reach out to your regional rep. Make sure that they know that you're going to be there for Best of the Rest, that you'll be more than welcome to jump over to Masters, so they can throw your name in the hat, right?
Yeah, and I just want to say a couple things about Best of the Rest. We're really trying to make Best of the Rest this year feel as if it is part of Masters. So Best of the Rest will be playing the same scenario as Masters will be playing. The trophies all look the same, basically, with a couple of color changes. We have a big, awesome prize table, raffle table. So we're really hoping, if you're interested in Best of the Rest, you really come out for it, because you will have that experience of being at a master experience. So please, if you're interested in Best of the Rest, like I said, the Masters Minute will be coming out this week. I'll make sure it gets to all the region pages. But Scott and I, the master man, Scott Holcomb, we've been working on some prize support and swag, Rob, that is just chef's kiss.
Okay.
Looking really great.
High bar. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I won't pull my punches, man. If it's garbage, I'm gonna tell you.
Oh yeah. So, and with anything, there's things that are going to be amazing and things we're going to learn from. No event goes off hitch free, right, Rob?
No.
Especially an event of this size.
Every year we get better, right? We learn from the
Mhm.
previous masters.
So we're just trying to learn from what's worked in the past, try some new ideas of our own, figure out what's working, what's not working. Yeah, so we're really excited about it. As we get closer, we'll preview some of the swag. We'll preview some of the prize support. We're doing all our actual non-swag trophy prize support in the same milieu that Northeast Masters did it. So for that is you get raffle tickets, and throughout the weekend, your name will get drawn. You go up to the table, you pick a prize. But as far as awards, for winning the awards, it's all just bespoke trophies. So we want to spread out some of the prizes so everyone can go and feel like, the answer to that question is, but it's not just any strike champion.
Of course.
To go with the Reno Casino Fuel, we will be holding the first annual World Series of Strike. So there is more information to come on that. But yes, we will have a strike dice tournament on Saturday night per now, which I think is now a tradition at any big Kings of War tournament. You need to have a strike dice championship. So
yeah,
but really excited.
Yeah.
If you're interested at all, like Rob said, talk to your region chairs. They can take you through all the details about where it is, how to get there, all those resources. But our hope is to make this a really great event.
All right. On our end, we're getting ready to kick off a Champions League, learn to play. Probably do like an 8-week thing, 2 weeks of learn to play, and then 6 weeks of a league, starting at the end of this month. And we've also started, or in the process of starting, an Armada League, which we're going to play once a month, which I think is cool, because I'm going to get to paint some elf boats. So that's cool. And Aubrey wants to play, which I'm like,
cool.
Okay, you want to play? So she likes the Twilight Kin, so she's going to play. Yeah. Am I super quiet? Let me move this in a little closer. Let's see. I can turn myself up a little bit. Let me go settings. Is that better?
Yeah, a little bit
Mr.
better. You
Kyle.
sounded okay to me. Let
right.
Kyle know if he
It's
can
probably
hear
it's probably just Kyle, right? He's probably those guys in Ohio have like a tin can with string. But yeah, so the other thing I've been doing all this past weekend is cleaning my garage. This is after 2 full days of cleaning, so there's still a lot to do. But yeah, it's I think I'm just about ready to get going back on some projects. So fingers crossed. I mean, look at this workstation here, all queued up with all the terrain and everything, Jeremy.
So is this where the terrain stuff usually happens? Is in the garage workshop, and then your
'cause
painting is in your hobby room?
It's just too messy to do it anywhere else. So my table is empty, but I still have all.
I'm a big fan of those style of the metal racks.
Yeah.
Those. You could pick those up at Office Depot or not Home Depot or Lowe's or any, and they're really great storage.
And Kyle brings up a good point. We also had torrential rain, 6 inches an hour, so mass flooding in our area. But luckily, it did not hit our town. So I mean, it got wet, but it's not standing water, thankfully. But yeah, the unfortunate thing though, Jeremy, is I went and I bought a couple of those shelves this weekend. I'm like, oh, that's gonna be plenty. On the one that to the right that has all that's not even all my army cases. I didn't have enough room. Like literally, they don't all fit. So I've got like
first
2
world
more
problems.
I know, dude. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I'm probably gonna have to get another. I mean, you also can't tell, but they're double stacked. There's actually like 4 sets of shelves deep.
Yeah.
So you got to like wheel them out like a I guess like a library or something. But exciting times though, because that means I get to get going on some terrain for Kings of Memphis. So I'm
nice.
excited about that. But well, let's do this. We've got a guest who's going to join us. So we got Andy Patton. What's interesting, Jeremy, is Andy hasn't done anything with this at all. He's never even thought about Champions other than to know he has to buy, his chosen company. And so it'll be fun as we're sharing with the world, some of the rules and our impressions of the game to get his fresh take. We don't usually get like new eyes on this like this. So welcome to the show, Mr. Patton. And you're on mute, FYI. Before you bust my balls, I'm going to bust your balls. There you go. Welcome to the show, Andy.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right, well, let's kick us off, guys. I think we could start with expectations for what we thought going into Champions, and maybe I'll start, and Jeremy, you can chime in, and maybe and when we're done, we'll kind of get what are you hoping for expectation wise for Andy. So for me, when I was thinking about Champions, I knew I was going to be playing the demo game at Adepticon. I was like, well, it's obviously got to be a quick intro to ranks and flanks, right? That's the whole point, right? Because I think the argument is, maybe ambush isn't as quick as it should be. And so I think there's an opportunity for, I felt that there was an opportunity to improve on ambush and, preferably make it more balanced. Those of us that have played ambush competitively and then the guy shows up with the vampires on foot, it's like, okay, it really is a game that can be exploited because there's very little restrictions. So I think the fact that we knew going into Champions that we would, oh, hey, Josh, what's up, buddy? And by the way, I owe Josh and his buddy from Iowa to get on the show. They were waiting patiently, and then we had the Gamer 777 guys on, and 2 hours later, they're still going. These guys wouldn't stop. So we definitely need to get Josh and company on in the very near future. But yeah, so I think there was an opportunity for Kings of War Champions to maybe build on what was great about Ambush, the small footprint, like the small table format, the smaller size units, but maybe do it in a different package where you could also add a little bit of spice, because Ambush is Kings of War, but at such a small scale, there's not a lot of spice to it. So, I figured there was something. And you know what? And Jeremy, I know you as a playtester, you would know this better than I. I'm not a playtester, but my assumption is that Kings of War Champions should be an avenue to playtest some of these great ideas as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, what I'll say, like, what Mantic has given us permission to talk about today, and thanks to Mantic, is that we can go into the rules of Champions. So we'll be talking a lot about like what's different, what's from it in Kings of War. Obviously what we can't talk about is when different factions are coming out, or there's so much awesome lore around this game that we're not going to touch on now. We'll touch on that after release, right, Rob? We'll have our narrative guys get into it. But what you can expect from today's video is just more of how does the game play? What are the rules? How is it different from what you might think, really looking at how does it actually play as a game? And I think also, Rob, what is this game meant to do, right? Who is it meant for? What is the target audience for this game?
100%. And I think, the idea about the release schedule too, there's no inside baseball here, but if you just do a quick search, and we'll show you the website, the Aussies and New Zealanders have posted everything. They've posted up all the releases. Now, we don't know what some of these names are, what faction they are, but we know when they're coming out, so we'll be able to share that as well. And Josh, 100%, this is not a replacement for Kings. It is a separate game that sort of takes Kings and augments it in a different way, but really it's designed to be a fast and furious intro to ranks and flanks.
And that's what, when you talk about expectation of what do you expect the game to be, that's really like my hope based on learning about it in our great, go back and listen to our episode with Rob Berman and Andy Burtis, where we cover the sort of genesis and development of the game. But, how do we create an easy to play intro to Kings of War where someone who's never played rank and flank gaming, or someone who wants to start building a Mantic community around Kings of War at your local store and no one's playing rank or flank gaming, how do we create a bespoke experience, like you said, Rob, with the easy to play elements of Kings that we love, but also some of that great seasoning to get you a nice little delicious amuse-bouche to take a bite of and be like, oh, wow, rank and flank gaming, this is delicious. I think I've had the appetizer. Now maybe I want to go for the full, French Laundry, 8-course Kings of War main game, So I really think that's what the spiritual core of this game is, how do we take new players to Kings of War, new players to Mantic, but more importantly, new players to rank and flanks? Because there's a lot of people who've never played rank and flank, and it's a completely different bag, right? It is very different from how other games play that rank and flank style gameplay.
Yeah, what's interesting is I've seen a lot of people post, oh, I was hoping it would be alternate activations. Oh, I hope it would be a skirmish game. It's like, you're missing the point. It's not going to be all. It's got to be Kings of War at its core. So that means you got to have unit basing, and you got to have you go I go. If it doesn't have that, it's not much of an intro to Kings of War, right? So let's just kick off. So I did get a chance to play the demo thanks to Kyle Ritchie at Adepticon. He had 2 beautifully painted up armies, and Mark has a comment about the models. Let me find that. Get it up here. There's so many comments, guys. This one right here. So to answer your question, Mark, we didn't actually. So the models that Kyle painted for the heroes, they were resin casts, so they were not the mastercrafted stuff. However, if you were at Adepticon and you purchased the event special fire team, that was mastercrafted
For Halo.
resin. Yeah, for Halo, and
Yeah.
it was fine. It was like it felt like a mix between resin and hard plastic. And it had the crispness and the detail of the resin. But maybe the durability of a hard plastic. So, I mean, I think it's fine. I'm excited about it. So, that being said, let's see if we got any other questions we need to tackle in right now. I think that's it for right now. All right. So, I played the demo, right? And I think now is where we can maybe share. Let's see if I go here. Let's just Let me close that out. So now we can maybe share. So I did play a demo. Again, here's our famous demo instructor, Mr. Kyle Ritchie out of Midland, Michigan. He was excellent. And then I played against, and you can see on the table here, it is the mat that, the 42 inches by 24 inches, but obviously their demo table is a 4x4. So you can see that the mat was rolled under, which it was fine. It still played well. What's interesting is it's obviously it's Forces of the Abyss on the left-hand side, and then Basilean company on the right-hand side. So this is a couple shots of the Basilean. So far left, you got crossbows, and then you've got men-at-arms in the middle, and then you've got the hero that's right there. And then all the way over to the right, you've got the Basilean cavalry. And this is a shot of just, the Abyssals was the whole table. But the Abyssals, you see they got Berserkers, and then they've got the Bloody Cardinal, which is the guy standing on the 50 millimeter base, and then you've got some lower Abyssals. So that was pretty much the game. So I figured before we get into the deep dive into the rules itself, Jeremy, I figured we could maybe share like my initial takeaways,
Sure,
my overall impression. So I like it. That's the best thing I can say is I like it, right? And I also am dying to see what else they have coming. So they've only shown us 2, and guys, spoiler alert, I have pics of all the cards for the first 2 factions. I took them at Adepticon. I will share them in just a minute. So those are cool, right? And so I had a lot of fun with the Abyssals and the Basilean. So I can see there's something here, and I'm really excited about what comes next. However, we've been dancing around it. I don't think this is for veteran Kings of War players.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, but it's a separate thing. It's not going to scratch the same itch, right? I'm not the target audience, right? And Kyle, you brought it up, which is where did it go? Oops, where'd it go? I can't. There's so many comments here. I can't even keep it. Here we go. This was Kyle's comment. I think he's 100% right. It is designed to attract people that might be ranks and flanks curious. Maybe they're coming from Age of Sigmar Spearhead. Maybe they're coming from Warcrow. I don't know, whatever. But I get the sense that they've really designed the game to pull in people that are playing non-ranks and flanks, round-based skirmish games, right? And it's designed to give you a sense of what it's like to move these units, right?
Yeah, I think in many ways it's sort of bringing to the surface are the dream maybe of what they had hoped, some stuff from Ambush and some stuff from Vanguard. Like, how do we create sort of the intro experience to Kings of War? And I think they've had sort of 2 tries at it, right? They've tried Vanguard, they've tried Ambush, and now I think they're kind of pulling the best, some best of both worlds, which is the rank and flank and the small units of Ambush, but not as crunchy as Vanguard by any means, but adding in the faction orders, adding in your champion special rules to add a little bit of spice to that smaller model space that allows for more spice. But it is an entry level game, right? And that's its mission. That's who it's designed for. So if you're wanting to right away transition into it as a super tactical, incredibly deep, complex smaller version of Kings of War. I don't think it's that, nor is it trying to be that.
I think though it scratches in some ways a different itch that'll give you a different competitive satisfaction if you want to take it that way. When we'll talk about command orders and stuff. It's a different thing that you don't have in Kings of War today. Certainly not the way command orders are currently in Kings of War compared to the way faction orders are in Champions. But to Zerligen's question about children friendly, I think it's awesome. Josh, 100%. We will.
Yeah, we'll cover.
In fact,
I'm
going to show you the faction orders for the first two factions, so you'll see them in just a minute. Like I said, guys, we have a whole thing planned. We are going to go deep dive into the rules. We're going to tell you everything that's different about this game from Kings of War. We're going to talk about everything from the terrain, line of sight, the differences in charging to the rear. All kinds of good stuff coming. But I think it can be children friendly. I think it can be, and I also think that what's interesting about this game is, if it is too complex for even a 6-year-old, you can take stuff out. Like, you don't have to play with the commands. You don't have to, right? Like, the game would work just fine without the commands. So, one of the things that I think is really great about this game for children specifically is it is fast and furious. You get into combat pretty quick, even though we're going to talk in a minute, the speeds are slower. But because you start so close together, you get into combat really fast, and the grind start. The maelstrom of destruction gets started. And I think for me, if I had a 6-year-old, I think they'd be more engaged because there's no downtime really. So super excited about that.
And in many ways, I think there's a parallel, Robin, that each Champions box, it's its own bespoke thing. You don't have, you're not writing lists. You're not doing anything. You're buying it's almost like a pre-constructed deck for a collectible card game. Right? It's a way to get you into that. You have something that you can open the box and you play it right out of the box, right? You're not having to add anything to it or tweak anything to it.
No list building at all.
No. So in many ways you can say like, oh, I want to get into Kings of War. I'm going to try Champions. What's the feeling of Basileans? Okay, let's get the Basilean box. It's a pre-constructed army with some of the staples of what makes Basilean. Plus, they're giving you some faction orders which speak to the overall flavor and feel of that army. So you can kind of get a sense by buying these champion company boxes where you might want to go in the future. But as Rob said, Rob Berman said, you don't have to go anywhere beyond this. If you just want to live in the Champions world and just collect all the faction boxes as they come out, decide which one you like, you can do that. But
yeah. And we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna go do a deep dive to the rules, but I did want to share some pictures of the cards so you guys could see what type.
And these were all publicly available at the.
Well, yeah, and I took pictures of them at the. So some of the ones with the bad, crappy photos was at Mantic Night. Lighting was very bad in there, so I apologize in advance. But this is the faction orders. These are the faction orders for the Basilean, and you'll see there's 3. Every champion has 3, and we'll talk about how they're deployed. But essentially, there's 3 commands, and you have 3 other units, and you can play them hidden at the top of the turn on one on each unit, basically. Or you can hold 1 back or 2 back, and you can use them in a different way in terms of.
And the tokens will have matching icons. So
correct. There's a token that has the symbols, right?
Yeah. So you place that face down on a unit,
and the actual orders themselves aren't like crazy. Like you can see the middle one there is Heaven's Blessing. The unit's defense is increased by +1 to the end of the round, right? But there's a hidden or a bluffing mechanic where the attacker places, they place 1, then the defender back and forth, and you all place them just like in Star Wars X-Wing, for example. And then you lay them all out, so it's now no longer hidden information. I mean, you get to see all the different things that what commands they put on their units, and they see what commands you put on your units. So this is the faction orders for the Basilean, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the cards for the rest of the Basilean faction, and then we will switch over to the Abyss. And one note, I noticed I didn't take a picture of the card for the champion. And the one thing that's missing is obviously the stat line. You're not going to see that for the Basilean hero. And also, all the champions have like a special ability. Actually, it might be called a command ability that you'll see on the other card. But let me go to the next one here. So this is the men-at-arms, basically. And we're going to talk, you'll look at this, and as a veteran Kings of War player, you're probably going to say, oh my gosh, some of these stats are really different. Now look at that nerve. It just says 1 number plus. We'll break this down in significant detail in just a minute. But I did want to share. So this is the men at arms units. I guess technically they got spears, and then you've got a troop of a troop. They don't have troop regiment and horde any of that stuff. They just tell you the size of the unit based on the dimensions. Again, we'll cover that in a minute. But these are some crossbowmen, and then this is the what would in Kings of War be a troop of the new Basiliane cavalry. And you can see the differences, right? Like speed is different. Attacks that might be close to what a troop would have, but look at the nerve value. So there are some significant differences. And Jeremy, what's the biggest thing that's missing from here that we'll talk about in length in just a minute?
Well, in Champions, there's only one nerve value. So
what's the stat that's not even on there at all?
Oh, and then height is no longer
height's not a thing. Yeah, in this game. So again, it goes back to that they tried to streamline Kings of War even further to make it more accessible. And I think for the most part, it worked. So let me grab the next one.
And I think what you'll see, as Rob said, okay, here we go. When you're looking at the champions themselves, here's the Bloody Cardinal, right? Yep. So each faction's going to have those bespoke command orders that you give. Think of that as like one side of the flavor coin, and then the other side of the flavor coin is each of the champions. They have their own special rules and their own sort of champion order or champion rule. Right. So that's where you're getting your extra flavor. That's a shoot stat. Instead of a range stat, they call it a shoot stat.
Here's Andy goes, Rob, you're talking on mute again. They decided that range was too confusing, so they just changed it to say shoot. So it's your shoot value. But yeah, to what Jeremy, you were just saying, like, basically over here, all the units will have special rules. It could be crushing strength 1, it could be regeneration, whatever. And then down here, the champions have a special rule. Essentially, what the Bloody Cardinal have is a 9-inch tread is basically what they have, right? But they don't call it tread.
And some of the special rules on certain champions may be things you're familiar with. They may be completely new rules, right? Correct. Like here, crushing strength, inspiring, and life leech all are familiar things. But on some champions, we may have something that's completely different, something that you haven't seen before.
So this is the Forces of the Abyss commands, right? And you can see like you can get +1 attack, you can get elite on your regen rolls, and then you can elite in melee kind of thing. So you can kind of see. So there's nothing here that's revolutionary. We'll get into the revolutionary part is that they are commands essentially, but the way you handle them is a lot different than we would do command orders in Kings of War. There's no resource you just get them right for free. So let's see. I think that's the last of those pictures here. So let's jump in and talk about, takeaways from the demo, right? I kind of gave overall impressions, but takeaways, I think we've talked a lot about it. This game is really designed to get new players into Kings of War, but more than that, it's designed to teach you how to play with intent. So Jeremy, the box includes a bunch of things, little widgets to mark your units before you move them, right? Arc of sights, like all the things, all the widgets we've acquired over the years are all now included in the box.
I think there's an effort to teach you how to play ranks and flanks the right way, which is marking your units before you move them, knowing how to check arc signs, talking about cleanliness of play. My intention is to be this, or my intention is. So I think they're taking some of those elements which make a strong foundational ability to play ranks and flanks and have great games with your opponents, whether you lose or win. They've actually put some of those elements into the rule book and into the box itself.
Yeah. And in terms of the models, obviously I've only seen in person the Basiliane and the Abyss, but I thought they were cool. Right now, some of them I've already seen, but the new plastic Paladins, Knights, I like them very much. And I thought the units, the heroes were amazing. It caught me off guard that they have integrated basing. So the basing is built into the model, so you don't have to base it. But I think the extra footprint that the bigger bases give the heroes is that you'll be able to see as they come out, or even if you go on the
and see, Rob, I like that because learning how to do diorama basing and multi-basing again is another skill that you have to build. So these champions already come with some cool elements on their base. So again, it's an introing you into what is it like to multi-base, what is it like to build cool diorama bases. Again, it's understanding what its core audience needs to take a step into the Kings of War hobby.
Yeah. And by the way, Andy, if any of this stuff resonates with you and you have questions, you're the voice of the community here. So make sure you pop in and say, Rob, I don't get what you're saying here.
Yeah, so you guys are saying that it has stuff on the bases already. Does that mean all the models are like pre-built and pre-based already?
The heroes are. All the other units are just plastics.
Okay, so they'll come on sprue still.
Correct. Will come on a hard plastic sprue.
And the heroes, you may still have to put like their arms or their head.
You might be right. You might be right.
But the actual base itself is modeled a little bit. Like there's rocks that they're standing on, or like a little broken tower, or
Nice. Okay.
And on that note, heroes, at least the two I saw were either 40 or 50 millimeter. So the Basilean character was on a 40, and the Bloody Cardinal was on a 50. So maybe we could read into something here. I don't know. This could be something that they're trying for 4th edition. The other thing I want
to be kind of cool.
Yeah. The other thing that was interesting as well is that for both the Forces of the Abyss, and I've noticed with the Northern Alliance. See, there you go. So he comes disassembled. So see, we got an expert in here. But
see, just a quick note on that, the base change to heroes in this game is I often feel heroes get lost in the majesty and coolness of multi-basing units. So I'm excited to see them on bigger units and champions. I think it's a good change. And it's a hero should feel impactful, right? So being on a little bit of a bigger, I think it's an interesting idea to have players get a chance to play in champions. Is their heroes on bigger bases?
Other thing I wanted to mention is that, like in the case of the Nagari, it's one Nagari, like on a chariot base. So that's not in Kings of War today. And then if you look at the Northern Alliance box, there's like one Frostclaw. So that's not something. I mean, I guess the Frostclaw, there is a character version in Kings of War. So what I'm curious though is, like, those sprues have multiple Nagari on the sprue. So are they going to chop up the sprue, only give you one, or are they going to give you three? So I guess I'll be surprised next week when I get my my shipment. So table size, everybody's been talking about the table size, right? They're like, oh, it's a new bespoke size. It worked fine. And it was fine. Now, interestingly enough, I just had a chance to play Spearhead for the first time, and it's on like a 30 by 22, but you deploy on the diagonal. Like, that is way too small, in my opinion, for playing this champion company, right? You need more real estate to move these big units around. So I think, like, the idea that they should have found an existing size to use, I think it's silly. And I also think a 4x4 that we use in ambush is probably too big as well. It's too deep. It takes too long for us to bring the battle lines together. So, I mean, in my mind, it's large enough that deployment, still mattered where you put them on the table, but it was small enough that you get into the combat really, really quick. So, yeah,
you need to have space to move around to capture the importance of, I mean, in ranks and flanks, right? Movement is the most important phase of the
100%.
game, right? So you need to have the space to do that. So, and I mean, they're going to have in the box set, you'll have the map, and then you can buy a nice neoprene. So I don't think it's going to be necessarily hard to grab.
No, you can buy one from them. They're going to make one. But the other thing I want to mention is that it's player place terrain, which a lot of us in the Kings of War community are used to if we played in Texas or other regions that use it. Now their take is a little bit different. It's there's more mechanics of how the terrain is deployed, which player gets which pieces and how you put them on the table. But again, I think it's common for us to play with this. And I think for those that are looking for a little more depth, I think the command orders gives you one. And I think this is another area that'll give you a little bit more playability.
And they've sort of broken terrain into two types, right? They have large and small.
There's two big types, small and large, and there's actually 4 types of terrain. In just a minute, we'll get into them.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of faction orders, when I first played, I was like, this felt like a feat to me. For those that remember that, where you had the caster and you could cast a feat, it felt a little bit like that. But it was a little different in the sense that even compared to command orders, because you don't have any resource management to worry about. You just get them every turn. They just replenish. Obviously until the hero dies. But I think the hidden deployment of the commands at the top of the turn of each turn, I think are going to have some pretty fun interplay. So, and we did touch on stat line changes. Just for example, a troop of Paladin Knights, in the game in Keys of War, they're unit strength 1, attacks 8, 12, 14, nerve 135 points, and height 3. And in this game, they don't have a type. They just have the base size 125 by 50, and then their speed 6, unit strength 2, and nerve 16 plus. And same thing with the Regiment of Berserkers. They're now essentially an equivalent of a regiment, right? Is in this game Champions speed 6, attacks 10, and 12 plus nerve. So what's interesting is I think they made the changes specifically to make the game more dynamic and more impactful. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Andy, when I say stuff like that we've changed some of the stat lines?
That's gonna be needing getting used to, going from Kings of War to Champions, getting used to the different stat lines, but it's not that huge of a difference, I guess.
Yeah, I think some people will say, "Oh, the movement is slower," and both basically all the Abyssals and the Basilean, they're either speed 4 or speed 6, right? However, we're going to talk about movement in a minute. You get extra pivots, so it ends up kind of being like ordered march, right? In some cases, so or more like nimble, really, in some cases. So the fact that you're a little bit slower, I didn't feel it. I think the bigger change is people are looking at those stat cards and going, there's only one number for wavering, right? Or for nerve. And the reality is there is no wavering anymore. You're either fighting or you're dead. That's it. There's no in between. And I think they had to do that for number one. Actually, Jeremy, when we had Rob and Andy on, Rob talked about it, that they wanted to avoid that really like dull part where you've taken a punch and then you got wavered and you're sort of standing there and you got nothing to do.
And there's still snake eyes on boxcars. Boxcars doesn't waver you, but basically, if you boxcars a unit, they can only do the things that you could do when you were wavered. So it still is an element in there, but in general, when you're dealing with smaller amounts of units, it makes sense, Rob. If you only have 3 or 4 units and 2 of them get wavered on a turn or whatever, you're not really playing the game anymore at that point. So I think part of the reason why that waiver mechanic has gone in looking at Champions is just based on the size of the game itself and the sort of nature of wanting to get these fast games in.
For me, it almost made it feel like simultaneous combat because it was fast, right? Like you attacked, I attacked back, and one of us dies in those exchanges. So, and to be fair, I didn't miss wavering. I kind of wonder though, like, couldn't you waver? I mean, I guess you can waver. It's not called wavering, but if you double 6 a ranged unit with your own shooting attack, I guess you could waver them. But it would still be nice to be able to maybe stop shooting, even though I think only the Basileans had a shooting unit in the demo. So Mark,
so is there no disordered?
There is disordered. So if it's just disordered is exactly the same, and we'll get into the rules in just a minute. But yeah. Disordered, devastated, they're all those things are still in the game. Mark Z did ask, hey, I heard there's double pivots. Basically it's like nimble. We'll go through the movement orders in a minute and explain it, but essentially just think it's like nimble. So before we get to the rules though, I thought it'd be fun to talk about the release schedule. So shipping next week, they've got the 2-player starter for Abyss and Basilean, and then along with the Jordan Taliesin Northern Alliance box and the Twilight Kin box, right? And then in May, we've got Grunk Black Crow, and you have the Void Talon, which is Night Stalkers, coming out in June. And after that, we know there's 3 more boxes. And let me close this out. Let me bring this up. So thanks to our friends in Australia, they posted everything to peruse, right? So you can see the little ones without any pictures. So this one says Axel Tricklebrook. No idea what that is. Tricklebrook makes me think maybe Trident Realms or Salamander, maybe Tricklebrook.
Right? Tricklebrook? That sounds like halflings to me.
Maybe. No. So here's the thing: the one right next to it, Terran Bly. Rob's already confirmed that that's the halfling box.
Oh, okay.
All right, and then there's one more on here somewhere. This guy, Ara Kamora. Orcs?
Cool.
I don't know. Ogres? Not sure. Yeah, everybody's talking about the really, 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 really great. If I can, where did he go? Where's the goblin box?
You go down. It's on the right.
Here. Got it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is pretty sweet, right? I mean, that's the mall pup launcher that I think is, right? That's like
the mech mop up launcher.
He's got 4 mall pups.
Yeah.
You know? Amazing.
What a cool model, man. That is you know, and it's nice to be looking at Mantic models and be able just to say that, you know what I mean? Just like oh, so flavorful and so creative.
Yeah, that last one, that Arca Komora, that certainly could be ogres. But we have no confirmation for that yet, right? So we'll just have to wait and see. But if you want to look at when these boxes are supposed to be out, just do a search. That's all I did. I took 2 seconds. You know, Kings of War Champions release schedule, bloop, and all the New Zealand and Australian online stores have all their stuff. Now, one thing to keep in mind, I don't know like the dates here because this says for the Goblins June, but I know that the Goblins come to May here in the US. So they might be a month behind. I'm not sure. So just keep that in mind. So with that, so we have one more question. Squirm and Vermin asks, where are the rats? Rodents demand representation. Well, 100% no, there's no rats for this year. So if we're going to get rats, that's going to be a 2026 company. So, and hopefully there's more armies, like, you know, I don't know, salamanders, and there's a lot of other ones that, you know, could be cool to have. And, you know, hopefully things go well in 2025 and that there's a reason to keep pushing a lot more product out. Andy, are you ready for the best part of the show? We go do a deep dive into the rules?
Of course.
Okay.
I thought that's why I was here.
Okay. Well, first up, we'll just tell you that there's only 20 pages of rules. I don't know if that's good or bad. But we're really going to focus on what's different between Kings of War and Champions. So we already mentioned it. It's a play area of 42 inches by 24. Yeah, so Josh, you bring up a great point. Ronnie said on the show that came out yesterday that new boxes will come out when new plastics come out. So like, for example, if they come out with a new salamander sprue of some sort, that would make sense to put that into a company box with a new character. And so we should see mostly, I think at this point, all the boxes are the newer hard plastics. So,
and I could see them like moving forward, Rob, if the game is successful, maybe if they refresh stuff, like maybe if they do an updated version of Nias or an updated version of Julius, maybe they come out with a second Basilean companion box.
For sure.
But this one has a different character, right? So it plays differently. It has different units in the box.
And maybe you know, you have like I don't want to say Samacris, but maybe they come out with plastic Alohi, right? And it's like, and then you bring a new Alohi character. Maybe it's
exactly. So I think the future is the sky's the limit as far as you know, in that producing these would be I would think you just have to have a new champion, right? And then you can just take stuff from the range, you know. So I think that you know, if the game does well, you know, maybe we'll see multiple companies of the same faction down the road, maybe.
You're muted, Mike.
I know. Of course I am. So, all right, we're into the deep dive of the rules. So rules are 20 pages. It's a 42 by 24 inch play area. You have command tokens that represent the 3 orders that your champion will have. Terrain. There's going to be 3 small pieces and 2 large pieces that you play with. And the 3 small pieces will be walls, and the 2 large pieces will be a wood, and then the area of boulders. Yeah, and this is a good point, too. We're not talking about the lore today, but I'm just telling you right now that the rule book and the model, all the cards, they're dripping with lore. The backside of those cards have the story of the unit, right? It tells you who they are, where they came from, and what their story is. So there's a lot to this bespoke units. And in terms of the units, we talked a little bit about it, but, you know, the base size is now just going to be a dimension in millimeters rather than like a type, like infantry, regiment, whatever. There is going to be a type on there is a type on the card. If you notice, it says champion, course, support, etc. I don't see that, you know, maybe there's going to be a command that uses it some way, or maybe an aura, but I'm wondering, that might be Jeremy something for 4th edition. I don't know. We talked about with Mark, you know, shoot is now what they call ranged. I'm not sure why. I mean, I'm assuming they just wanted to make it easier, to make it children friendly. Like, oh, you just shoot this person rather than ranged. Doesn't make sense. And then
and I will say, just the book itself, from like a production value, art value, picture value, and just look, it is really nice. It's one of the nicest books that they've done, just from like the quality of the images and the lore is so great. So this is one of those that I think is going to be worth it to have in your collection, just from an inspiration, art, just from wanting to have a cool book. This is definitely looking good, I think.
100%, 100%. And let's see what else we got in here. Nerve value, we mentioned, is just a single number. And there's a champions rule, which is like a special buff that you can do your units. And like we said, the Bloody Cardinal has essentially 9-inch dread. There's no height in this game at all. Not for terrain, not for units. So essentially, it's a lot easier to block line of sight in this game, right? And Mark had a question about, are we still using the leader point for line of sight? And the answer is yes. So basically, to see another unit, you got to be able to draw a line from your leader point to somewhere on their unit that's unobstructed, right?
Yeah, you're looking for, is there something in the way? And then you don't then ask that next question about, well, what are the heights of things? You stop there, right? If you can't draw a line of sight from your leader point without it not going over something, you can't see. So it's still DNA is the same line of sight system that Kings of War players would be familiar with, but just take out the height element.
Yeah, 100%, Kyle. It definitely is a much more polished game. They've obviously play tested it more, and proofread. I haven't found any errors yet. So knock on wood. I might have just jinxed myself. So terrain types. So I mentioned there's 4 types. There's blocking. It's exactly the same as in Kings of War. There's also a large piece of terrain called difficult. That's like, it's basically a picture of boulders. What's interesting, it's like Kings of War, but it doesn't block line of sight, and it's treated as flat, so it never gives cover. Then we have a large wood, same as Kings of War, and we have the small ones are obstacles. The one thing that's interesting is there's no hills in this game, Jeremy. None. 0. So that's interesting, because you don't have heights to play with it, right? Because in our game, hills really only block line of sight and add to the height. So
yeah, heights are a key element of how hills work in the game. So that makes sense to me, that if you're going to take height out, taking that piece of terrain out, it just makes sense too. And also the board's smaller, so if you wanted to have hills and all these other, but there would be no space. So to me, that just feels right in the game change.
Yeah, it sounds a lot more streamlined and basic on the rule set, so it should be a lot easier. I noticed in the 2 army cards that you showed us, there were no individuals.
correct.
So
There's no individual special rule in this game. Yep.
Yeah, so I know individual rules can be a little confusing to newer players as well.
Absolutely. And like, rather than saying dread and then pointing you to the rule book, they just write what it does on the card. They don't try to give it a name and say, go to page whatever. All the rules you need, all the explanation, all the extra text is all on the card itself. You don't need them. And to be fair, we did have a question about, are the rules in the book? No, they're not. Well, the rules are in the book, but none of the stat lines are in the book, right? So you've got lore and you've got Kings of War Champions rules, but there's no unit stats in the book itself. That's where the cards come in. It's a la Vanguard. Or yeah, it could be for sure. The fact that it is slightly different could be confusing, but hey, Kyle, if I can figure it out, I'm sure you can too.
Well, I think he was talking about individuals. That the individual rules can be confusing to veteran
I think
players.
One of the things that helps alleviate that is the fact that there's no 25 millimeter bases. They're on big bases, just to give you the sense that this is not an individual. But
and again, this game is to get people into the hobby. It's to get people trying Kings of War, to get people maybe who don't own any miniatures or whatever. And in the end, this company is trying to sell games and sell miniatures. So this is not the game for, if you have 1,000 3D printed armies and you just want another rule set, go find another rule set, to play skirmish. This is not that. This is not just giving you a rule set to play smaller games of Kings of War. This is to get you into, again, what are we trying to say, Rob? Playing Panathor, right? This is trying to get you into the Kings of War hobby, Kings of War miniatures. So you need to buy the company box to play that company. And if that's not your bag, then that's totally fine. You can play Kings of War and use whatever models
right?
you want.
So you could start with Vanguard if you wanted and play a skirmish game in Panathor. Then you can move up to Kings of War, which is an entry level into ranks and flanks. If you like that, you can move. You don't have to. None of these steps are mandatory. You could move into ambush and play, essentially Kings of War light with a few restrictions about unit point cost. And then if you still like it, you can go all the way up to the granddaddy and, bust out 2,800 points of Kings of War. So I love the fact, though, that they have this linear scale that makes very segmented but well thought out jumps between the games. I mean, if you think about it, Vanguard is a skirmish game, which will be very accessible to people playing AOS or those, Warcrow, whatever. And then you move into Ranks and Flanks, but it's of Kings of War Champions, but that is like the easiest version you could ever possibly. It's only 3 units plus a hero, right? And a lot of the mechanics have been super streamlined. So in a way, it is a skirmish game. And then you can take one more step. Now you've added list building, and you're playing on a slightly bigger table of 4x4. And then the final jump is all the way to Kings of War. So I like that they've thought through this. Well, the turn. So that's what everybody wants to know, right? So you start the turn. It's called the champion phase. Both players place their tokens down, alternating, and you place them down on the 3 units. You can't place a command on a champion. Then you flip them all over, and then the attacker goes first, right, in the first round. And so essentially, and there's a die roll, and we'll get to that in a minute. But how do you know who's the attacker, who's the defender? We'll get to that in a minute. But essentially, the phases are a movement phase, the range phase, and Jeremy, they call it the combat phase now. They used to call it the melee phase. Or what'd you call it? The melee phase?
Well, I mean, that's how I grew up pronouncing that word, was melee.
But they're throwing you a bone. You don't have to mispronounce it anymore. I always call it
not.
the melee phase. But like, we don't have to have that discussion anymore. It's just called the combat phase.
We no longer have to rift anymore on whether it's melee or melee.
Correct.
Okay.
And then once both players, so I will go through movement, range, combat, all the way through, and then the other player would do the same thing, and then we'll do the end phase. So the champion phase, right? So as I mentioned, a unit can only I haven't mentioned this yet, but a unit can only receive one faction order in a turn. Faction orders can't be used on the champions themselves. They can only cast it on the 3 units in their company. And what's really interesting is that commands can be held back and not deployed and not used. And you can set them aside to reroll a single die during a nerf test when the unit is not inspired. So I see Andy's brain going trying to figure out the permutations of that, but it's interesting, right? Because it's better than inspiring in the sense that if you got a 1 and a 6, right, you can just reroll the 6 and have a better, potentially a better chance of getting that snake eyes if that's what you need.
And the idea there too is like once you have units die, you no longer have a unit to give an order to, right? Because you can't give multiple orders to the same unit. So it gives you something to do with that order that's still beneficial to you, even if you no longer have a unit to give it to.
So now let's talk about movement. This is what Mark is most interested in. I don't even know if Mark's still with us, but I know Mark will be listening to this in the near future. But big change to movement. You can move within 1 inch of an enemy unit, but you have to you got to end your movement outside of that. So you can go by a unit, you can walk next to a unit, but you can't end within 1 inch. And then if you're advancing, you get 2 pivots. If you back up, you get 1 pivot. If you get at the double, you get 2 pivots. And if you charge, you get 2 pivots. What's interesting, Jeremy, there's no sidestep here that I saw. Did I miss that? I don't know. Double check.
I'd have to go back and look. We just are getting this today, and I imagine so this is our initial impressions. So if we get anything wrong,
sidestep's still in the game.
Blame Rob, but
yeah, sidestep still is in the game, but you do not get a pivot on that. So that's interesting. So it's not really nimble because you can't do it on the sidestep, but you can do it on a back, advance, charge at the.
But in general, more pivots to more units. So again, you're playing on a smaller board, but yet you have a little bit more maneuverability to get around this smaller board.
Let's get to the juicy stuff. I want to see Andy's reaction. I want to see his head explode. You ready, Andy? To charge, you have to contact at least 1 inch of the facing. Not just a little bit more than a corner, 1 inch.
Clip.
1 inch. Okay. Number 2, you cannot multi-charge to the same facing. You cannot put 2 on the front or 2 on the flank. A multi-charge has to be on different facings, and there is no smart charges. All right, I'm gonna shut up for a second. Andy's eyes are rolling in the back of his head. He's thinking about that. What are the implications? Go ahead.
they're forcing you to use that maneuverability that Jeremy was talking about. So it also encourages you to line up correctly with no smart charging. You're gonna have to actually make real contact. Uh, I guess with the flanks. So
To paraphrase, I think they're teaching you how to actually move the units properly.
yeah.
Right. So yeah,
Uh,
it's gonna be interesting.
question: is there withdrawing?
There is no withdrawal. We're gonna get to that. The
There's a
bounce back
new
rule is back,
mechanic.
baby.
Yeah, there's a new
It's
mechanic that
the
happens at the end of
the
combat.
pushback rule is now here.
Okay.
Something
Those
different.
The sneaky Brits.
But I think
100%.
the idea too is it's encouraging you to not just play this game as a rank and flank game and just charge everything in the front, right? Because it's allowing you the tools to be like, well, I can only charge one in the front, so I'm going to move around. Oh, I got a flank. I get a bonus for attacking the flank. That's awesome. So again, it's gameplay elements that is designed to guide you into what makes a good ranks and flanks player, right? Of utilizing the side angles, the rear angles, all that sort of stuff.
In terms of the ranged phase, a couple things that are interesting. If you give a halt command, you're +1 to shoot. Thought that was pretty cool. And there's none of this concealed or obscured cover anymore. There's if the facing of the unit that you're shooting is 50% blocked, then you get cover. Or if you're 50% in the woods, you get cover. That's it. So the boulder piece, the one we talked about, the large, that's considered flat and does not give you cover. Right. It will affect hindering, right? That kind of stuff. But let's see. Combat phase. This is Andy's favorite topic in the whole world. Remember, there's no individuals in the game. So Mark was asking, are the very small base exposures charges, specifically flank charges, something to be aware of in Champions? Well, let's talk about what that means. So to the front, we all know what that is, but the flanks, it's still double attacks. But there's a change for the rear. So now a rear attack is double the attacks, and you get +1 to hit. Okay, do you see the head nod there?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
That could be interesting, right? I don't know how the statistics break down on that, but that'll be something I'll definitely have to do. There is some truth to that for sure. Yeah. Just to
Good day, mate.
Yeah, for people that are listening, just make sure. I mean, you do have to buy the company box. It's the only way you're going to get the cards for the unit, and that's the only way you're going to get the rules, and the only way you're going to get the hero. Now, there's been some discussion about are they going to be available in Kings of War? I think the units could be ported over, but you can't take the stat lines because the stat lines won't work in Kings of War. And that's not directly. They don't have wavering. So the units are already available separately. So if they wanted to make like a bespoke unit of Basilean crossbowmen in Kings of War, they probably could, right? They probably could. The heroes, though, I don't know how they would port that over. The way we do command orders today in Kings of War is a lot different than the way they do.
Maybe they'll be in Kings one day, Rob, but in a
fourth
different
edition,
way.
maybe. And who knows? By that point, they'll probably they might be selling them separately, right? It's not unlike Armada, right? Armada now is you can get all the stuff available as STLs, and you can print the cards. But it wasn't like that when it launched.
But I think Rob and Andy spoke about how Ronnie's goal that these characters become key elements of the lore in the growing world of Panathor that is always growing, changing, evolving. So, I mean, to me, it makes sense that they're going to end up in the main game at some point. But like you say, Rob, maybe that's not until next edition, or maybe it's in a way that's, it's part of a summer campaign, or who knows. But you could tell that they put a lot of energy into thinking about designing these characters. So I would be shocked if they only ever stay in Champions forever.
I can't wait for people to see the models they haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing the models, and I like the fact that they're not in Kings of War now, the heroes, because it's a very good opportunity for introducing new heroes to factions.
Funny you say that, Andy, because for me, I can never see myself playing a Basilean army in Kings of War. So in our Champions League at the shop, and by the way, Andy and I play at the same shop because we're cool, right? Or he's cool because he hangs out with me. Is that what it is, Andy? Yeah, maybe not. But for the champions thing, I'm going to play Basilean, and so I'll have 3 units and a special character, and that'll be it. I won't add any more to it to make it a Basilean army. So I'll get my fix of painting that ornamental ceramic armor that I have in my head, but I won't have to
Bestowing
paint
holy righteousness on your enemies, you
Correct.
get that itch scratched.
You muted your mic again.
Yeah.
Yes, I did, but on a much smaller amount of models, which is good.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into combat because Andy was asking, well, what happens after combat? So number 1 is if the target is still there, it's called pushback, and the enemy bounces back 2 inches. If they can't bounce back the full 2 inches, it's called trapped, and your unit moves back 1 inch, but because they couldn't get pushed back, they take D3 points of damage extra, and it does not trigger a new nerve test. Sort of reminds me of Firefight, Jeremy, in that combat phase where, right, if you get them, like, isn't there a mechanic in Firefight where if you charge in, and I wish Luke Schaefer was here. He's the
you fall back if you lose.
But if you hit if you can't fall back, don't you just die?
Yes, and that there's some more nuance to that for vehicles. The attacking weapon needs to have like a keyword, but the idea is similar in that and this is very much I think it comes out of the historical world, right? Where if you lose a combat, you run away. Yeah. If you can't run away, something bad happens to you. So I think that in looking at this is an interesting mechanic. I'm curious to see what people think about it. It does allow, when you think about, well, what's in Champions for me as a player who already knows how to do this, trying to set up charges to use mechanics and use terrain in a way so that your opponent can't run away, so they take a little extra damage. That's a more advanced skill. So that could be an element of this that maybe more experienced players can mess around with, is getting combat result spacing. Maybe if you bounce back an inch based on blocking your opponent's bounce back, you bounce back onto a piece of terrain and are now scoring it. Or maybe you can move someone off a piece of terrain if you don't kill them. So I think there's a lot of depth here in this rules change.
Yeah. So, and if you do route the unit, you still can regroup like normal, but now, and you can still back up D3, right? And you can go forward D3, but the one caveat here is you have to stop an inch away from enemies. So I thought that was interesting. Again, who knows? I don't know. Read the tea leaves. Maybe they're trying something out for 4th edition. Yeah. Yeah, it does remind me of historical.
Yeah, Kyle comes from historical, and that's a big historical thing of people being like pushed back,
So,
but I'm curious, Andy, what do you think as like a tournament player and just as an idea in thinking about changes to Kings, and maybe there's some Champions changes that would be good for the main game or not, or etc. What do you think about needing to have that inch to be able to charge something and no longer, well, technically I am 2 millimeters in off the corner, so thus I can make a charge. What do you think of needing to have a certain amount of space on a facing to have a legal charge?
I like it. It's a lot more new player friendly. I will say that you're not going to have as many gotchas with, well, I moved this unit out of the way, and if I charge this unit in, then I've got, 2 millimeters on this edge here that you didn't see. Or my 120 millimeter unit charges your 125 millimeter unit. Nobody else is getting into that with no smart charges or anything. So, very interested to see if they change that in 4th edition to smart charges not being a thing anymore. And this could be a good way to set up for people getting used to the rules for 4th edition.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things here. It'll be interesting to see the feedback they get from champions, from the veteran Kings of War players, and see what they like, what they don't like, and maybe we don't get it moved over to Kings of War wholesale like exactly the way it is in Kings of War. Maybe there's a slight tweak to it. So, yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be pretty fun. So, I think I started to mention the nerve test. You do it at the end of the. They say you test at the end of the movement and range phases if the unit took damage. I didn't see any attacks in the movement phase, but maybe there's something that like there's a special ability that has like caltrips or something. I don't know. So that interesting. You're
Yeah, in
on
a
mute.
faction we haven't
Yeah,
seen
maybe.
yet. Maybe there's a way to do damage in the movement phase.
Exactly. So that was interesting. You test it after each combat. Devastated is still a thing. Once you exceed the nerve value, you half the number of attacks for both ranged and for combat. And then they still have exceptional results. So a double 1, you ought to pass the nerve test. Double 6s, if you double 6 somebody, even if you don't kill them, then they're basically wavered. They can only halt, change facing, sidestep, or back up next turn. So it's basically that. No, I mean it's certainly a ranks and flanks on a very small scale, so it is very quick. But unlike a first-person shooter, it's a lot harder to move these units around. Command tokens, you can set one aside, like I mentioned before, and you can, if the unit that you want to play it on isn't inspired, you can have them re-roll one of their dice. That's a great question. I don't. If it is, there's got to be specific. I haven't seen any magic. There, I would assume that there's probably some of the special characters might have magic that just get treated as a ranged attack. I mean, I don't know. Do you consider regeneration magic? That's a great question.
Well, actually, regeneration is part of its Sylvan DNA and not magical.
Yeah, so this was answering the question about a video game. No, it's a new box for Kings of War. Yeah, it's a brand new game all onto itself, and I think everybody from Kyle and Rob and Andy and Ronnie, they've all said that this is a separate game, and there's going to be some people that just play this game by itself, and there's going to be some people that this is the leaping stone into into something bigger, whether that's Ambush or Kings of War. So let's see. Big shout out to Andy Burtis, the first of many playthrough videos go up today. This one was about setting up the companies and getting the game ready to roll. We did have a question from Ray Crum and said, are the rules for the factions going to be available in either Companion or Champions? No. The answer is no. You've got to buy the cards. And the only way you get the cards is through the Champions box. So let's talk a little bit about the starting, like how you start a game. So we kind of alluded to it, but essentially the players will roll off a d6 and the winner will decide if they want to be attacker or defender. And then you'll either roll or choose for a scenario. I assume if we're playing like in our league, Andy, I assume we'll roll off and then everybody will play the same scenario that round maybe or something. And we'll talk about the scenarios in a future episode because there's a lot there, but there's 6 of them. There's one called Patrol, the Portal, Into the Lion's Den, Treasure Hunt, Make a Break for It, Hold Your Ground. Essentially there's 5 pieces of terrain, 2 large, there's 5 pieces of terrain. The defender picks, so essentially you rolled off, right? And you decide if you want to be attacker or defender. The advantage of being defender is you get to pick the terrain and you get to have 1 large and 2 small, and then the attacker gets the other, and the defender places 1 piece down, attacker next, and you alternate to all the terrains down. The only rule is it can't be in the deployment zone and it has to be 3 inches away from other terrain. And deployment zone on all of the scenarios are 5 inches up and 42 inches wide. Attacker deploys first, and you go back and forth just like Kings of War. And the attacker goes first in the first round. And I don't know why they word it that way. I don't know if well, I guess I don't know. I don't know why they word it that way. We don't waste our time talking about Adam Ballard. Yeah. We didn't mention orcs. Arcs? Oh, arcs. Sorry. I said orcs. Yeah, I mean, the arcs, front, flank, rear, all that's exactly the same. I think the one difference is because there's no heights, line of sight is changed a little bit in the sense that now you've got to see around everything because everything blocks your line of sight. I don't know, Jeremy, what else should I talk about that? In terms of arcs, I mean,
it's pretty much the same. Like the only real big change is the drawing line of sight is different because of heights. But outside of that, you're going to be coming from Kings, be very familiar, or moving from Champions to Kings, you're gonna have the core of how line of sight is.
Yeah, I mean, if you're
derived.
charging, right, it's the same. Draw, you gotta have line of sight, right, which is harder to do now. Are you within twice your speed to have the charge distance, and can you make it there and fit with the two pivots?
You still have to go around blocking things, like you still
Yep.
have to move around other people's units, so that is similar, but you're only charging one unit per facing is like
Exactly.
the main difference.
Exactly. Oh, we did. So I thought I did mention this, but the rear charge is you double your attacks and you get +1 to hit. So it's like the same as in the flank, but you get +1 to hit additionally.
This is one thing I just think the single, double, triple is so easy to comprehend, and it's such a key part. And I like rolling a lot of dice myself,
Yeah.
so I'm curious to see how this change flushes out what people think.
So, and I should mention, I have a couple questions too. The first one is they don't really talk about blocking terrain as part of these scenarios. So I don't think it's in the box. So how does that play into the game, right? You only have basically the woods, the large piece of difficult terrain, which is like covered in boulders, and you have some walls. So there's that question. The duration for these scenarios is 6 turns. And that's the way it looks like. Now, I didn't look at them closely, so I guess they could potentially tweak them with the scenario, but I'm curious for the scenarios that are only 6 turns, like, how much am I going to miss the turn 7, right? And maybe it's because there's only 4 units on the table on each side, which is why you only have 6 turns or need 6 turns. I'm not sure. So,
I'm curious how long they take, because I'm wondering if we do events for this, or if we start doing leagues, maybe we play some sort of best 2 out of 3, like your match with someone is not just one game. If it's quick
whoever
enough,
wins the roll and picks like attacker or defender, they have to do the opposite in the second game.
In the second game, right? And maybe if you win and your opponent wins,
if you play a third one, then you roll again. At that
yeah,
point.
so maybe you have a draw. There's ways to calculate win-loss draw based on the 2 out of 3. That kind of goes with the sort of collectible card game feel for this that it has for me for pre-constructed decks. Yeah. So maybe that is, and maybe if we develop like a best 2 out of 3 system that has some of those cool strategic elements, maybe that's a way, again, if we want to play this game with a little bit more strategic depth, there is a way to do that. But so I'm curious to see what sort of evolves in that space.
Yeah. Well, Andy, here's your opportunity. Fire away. You got questions. We got answers.
Yeah, when's the first tournament?
We're gonna be playing. We're gonna be playing Champions at Kings of Memphis on Friday night before the event. I don't think we're gonna do a tournament. I think we're gonna have at least 4 or 5 demo armies painted up, ready to go.
So my first question is, let's go ahead and go with Matt here.
Yeah, we got a question for Matt. He says, how would leagues work with set lists? Would this end up as an Adepticon event or just casual play? I mean, we're running a league locally in Memphis, and our expectation is, potentially I might play another Basilian player, and we'll have the exact same. I mean, in a way, you could argue it's more like chess in that case, right? Because it's literally there's no alterations to the list at all. He brings up a good question though, Andy and Jeremy. Is this a casual game?
Anything's competitive if you put your mind to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there is ways that if people love the casualness of this game and the gameplay, but they want something a little deeper, I think there are some ways to add that. Because what I start thinking about, I think collectible card gaming is a good metaphor. I start thinking sideboards. Maybe you come with 2 companies and you get to decide which of the 2 companies you want to play, right? And maybe in the second game, you can pick your other company, right? So maybe there is ways in the if we do decide to think about it as a competitive game, that we add some of those elements that work good with competitive gaming around where people come with pre-constructed things, So maybe there's some space for that, but I'm going to initially start approaching it from that lens of, how do I get people? Maybe this is a way to get Kings of War being played at my store, any type of Kings 100%. Of War, and then I can go from that's I think the beachhead, right?
Yeah.
Let's use it as a tool to get people playing Kings of War and ranks and flanks that aren't. And then if it takes off, I think having a events at Adepticon or new player friendly events, or I think it's the world's your oyster. And like what Andy said, how much effort do you want to put into it, into creating the structure? You can really.
Yeah, I really like this. Having more than one company, and then, you know, maybe not even having the option. You have to play your other company in the second game.
I think that would be really cool, right? Because it's like my sideboard, right? These are my two companies I'm bringing, and maybe one company's good against certain things, the other company's good against other certain things. And again, it's a way for me as a player, I have to be proficient with both, and they're simple enough that I can be proficient with both because the game is more streamlined. So I really think there's some magic in thinking about how we want to do this in a competitive. If we do, I think there's some cool ways for us to just explore this game.
So I haven't looked into a whole lot of this myself yet. I did that on purpose because of this here. What all is coming out in release?
Yeah, so just to recap, there is a 2-player starter called Faith and Fury, which has the Basilan company and the Forces of the Abyss company with the tokens and the rule book and a paper mat. So it's like everything you need to get going. In addition, in April, and by the way, in April, I mean it ships next on the 14th, the 14th, which is next Monday. There's going to be a Northern Alliance box and a Twilight Kin box. Now, to use those, theoretically, you're going to want to. I guess you're going to want to buy. They have a separate rule book like they have done with Vanguard and Armada, where you buy the rule book and you get all the tokens, right? Like I shouldn't say tokens. The tokens come in the box, but like the terrain and the widgets and all that stuff comes with the rule book. So
is it actual terrain or is it like
it's cardboard terrain? It's
okay.
punch out terrain, and then they have
like the Halo stuff.
It's not the kind that you assemble. It's literally like an area, piece of terrain, like it's a 2D terrain.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's
and then you can add terrain on top, right? Like
and you can buy like they have like a box with the terrain that's only flat in the starter set, but that's actual terrain upgraded. So you can buy that on release. They'll have
Jeremy. I don't even want to share this, but I'm gonna share it at your expense.
Yeah, well, I mean,
with friends like that, you don't need enemies.
Well, when you paint as shittily as Kyle does, you can paint quicker. So when you try to do it with a certain level of skill, it does take longer. So I don't know what to say.
Oh, they're a lot easier to paint when you buy them pre-colored in at the Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
Little dinosaurs.
Oh, I don't think Kyle expected that reception, guys.
I wasn't gonna touch him in the dinosaur spot. That's like the word. He's got to go to therapy, and it's like show me on the doll where the bad man touched you. I've
been mean to him today. I'm sorry, Kyle.
Yeah. Well,
and then they have a nice neoprene mat too. So you can there's a paper mat in the 2-player starter set, but you can also buy a nicer
and the neoprene
mat.
one that he showed in the video today was double-sided. It's like green on one side and snow on the other,
which I think is great.
And all the terrain is double-sided, so that's cool.
That's great.
I like that the neoprene stuff
for sure. Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
So what do we all?
Go
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say. So there's 4 factions coming out next week, right? Shipping next week, and then you've got Goblins in May. And then you have Night Stalkers in June. All that's been confirmed on our podcast. And then there's 3 other factions that are probably coming out July, August, September. I mean, that would make sense, right? Once a month. And the only one we know for sure is that Tar and Bly. Rob said that was Halflings. And then there's 2 others. What was it? Trickle Brook Street, something like that. Whatever. I don't remember their names, but there's 2 other factions. We don't know we don't know what races those are.
Somebody said that it sounded like Trident Realms, and they leaked some Trident Realm stuff at Adepticon.
Okay, well then it probably is Trident Realms. That trickle whatever, and then the other one was like Arca Camorra. I don't know if that's an ogre. I don't know if it's. It would make sense it's ogre because that's one of the factions that has pretty brand new plastic, and it would make sense.
But I'm planning on picking up the starter box, and then I'm going to get the other 2 factions. And then I am gonna get the nicer terrain and like the neoprene set.
Yeah.
Because I just those are nice.
You just got to bling it out, Jeremy. You can't do anything half cocked. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
So,
And I
to
think
answer
I'm
his
going to
question-
monopolize. I think I'm going to tear apart. If there's anything in the Twilightkin company that was part of my half-finished army, I'm just going to take that, put that in my companions company.
I haven't heard Abyssal Dwarves, but like I said, anything's possible because there's technically 2
And they have newer
boxes that I don't
plastics.
know.
And they have newer plastics
They
for
do.
Abyssal
So
Dwarves,
that
too,
might
so-
also be something that happens in like, because Ronnie said there's more coming. So maybe they do this first wave of 9. I think it's 9, right? And then they keep going. So Abyssal Dwarves.
But again, Rob, it speaks to if they're going to do more, what needs to happen, right? People need these
you
need
gotta buy
to
'em.
sell.
Yeah, you gotta buy them because
So,
they're not gonna. If they don't sell, they're not gonna keep going.
Yeah, it's not a company that's meant to make cool things for you to play with for no money. I mean, that just is unfortunately.
Halo's a great example, right? Halo is
Capitalism.
gone gangbusters. That booth at Adepticon was hard to get into. Andy, I had to go get a couple event special fire teams for Brian and Taylor, and I had to throw some elbows to get in there. It was hit or miss. I wish my other war dogs, my club mates, would have been there to throw some elbows and kind of bodyguard me into that place. But you're right. Ultimately, I know at our store we're really excited about it. We've got like 7 or 8 people that have signed up, all pre-ordered a faction, and we're looking forward to learning the game and playing. And I'm excited about it. It should be a lot of fun. And
yeah, I may have a few more.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we're going to do a hobby day at the end of April at the Loose Caboose.
I love that store name. What a name.
Yeah, it's the best name.
It's the name.
So, and we're going to be putting together some factions and attempting. I'm going to try to do some, start doing a league. And the great part with multi-basing too is that if you're still putting your stuff together, you're going to have all the multi-bases so you can play immediately, right? Just put the blank base out there. Bob's your uncle. You're good to go. And at least test out the rules.
Yeah. Well, that's what Andy will do.
No, these will get painted.
But yeah, I guess that's another good point to make too, is that we're not talking about a lot of models. We're talking about like 25 to 30 models. Now I haven't seen the goblins. The goblins might be more, but like the factions we've seen, 26 models in the Basilean. It's not a lot of models.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be something that anybody, it's achievable. Because I wonder sometimes, Andy, as a newer player to Kings of War and an even newer hobbyist, I wonder sometimes like the barrier to entry as I'm going to play 2,300 points. How do I paint 300 models or 200 models? I'd be curious just like how, does that make sense? Jeremy, does that resonate with you? Like if that's the task.
Yeah, there's something, analysis paralysis is a thing, right? Sometimes when you have 100 of something to do, you don't even start doing number 1 because the task is so Herculean. But I think it's a reasonable amount of models to get out there. This is a perfect project to go try using speed paint. You know what I mean? Or slap chop or use some of those faster paint techniques. Yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, we'll be back. We're kind of wrapping up here, but we'll be back again. We'll go into more detail on the scenarios, answer more questions if people have some. I mean, it's coming out next week, so like we're all gonna have it in our hands, and I can't wait to hear everybody's first impressions of the game and what.
And just the book is nice. I mean, I think
great.
I think it's worth price of purchase. There's
a lot of lore,
just for all the extra stuff.
Yeah,
I think the new hero models are cool. I think this is going to be a great opportunity.
You, Andy and Jeremy, what's your favorite hero models of all the ones that have been shown?
I haven't seen any yet.
You been living under a rock, or what's going on there?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, mine is the Goblin. That Goblin Mawpup suit is just it's just amazing.
I'll just say, if all of the hero models are of that quality, it's gonna be insane. That Mawpup launcher
Bloody
looks
Cardinal's cool
amazing.
too, because he's got like these little imps that he's standing on. It's like they're trying to hold him up, and they're like, you can barely even see him. He's so fat and just pushing down on him. Really great models. Really great models. The Void Talon that's in the Night Stalker box looks great. The first 5 characters have just been.
Yeah, I mean the more shadowed out Raphael looks super good. Yeah, Josh is totally right. I I love to see the Solistis family growing, so Alanis looks great.
Yeah, and Steve brings up a good point, and he probably missed the beginning where I think I said, I don't think this is really designed for veteran Kings of War players. Its purpose is to get people into Kings of War, not keep people in Kings of War, right? And so I think it definitely scratches a different itch. And now, Andy, that's the spirit I'm taking into it. I'm not treating it like Kings of War. It's a separate thing.
Yeah, I may be getting one of each of the factions. I've got a bunch of guys in my D&D groups that I play with that I've been trying to get to start playing, but it's too daunting a task for them to paint 200 models to field an army on the table. So maybe I get something and paint them up, and I've got them here at the house. The games sound like they're going to be quick enough for me to just go, all right, guys, let's hang out.
And to speak to that too, Andy, I have some friends who like to play, more complex board games, but have never played miniature games, but they'll play like Terraforming Mars or more so I'm thinking, well, maybe on a Saturday afternoon where we're not doing board games, maybe I get a couple of them over and we play this, right? As a taste of what miniature gaming could be like, you know what I mean?
I think go ahead.
I was saying I've got many board games that sound more complicated than this.
Yeah.
What I'm interested though is we have local players that we got them in and they started dabbling with Ambush, and it's like they've never played a Ranks and Flanks game before. Some of them have never played a miniature game before, and so we're asking them to build an army. They're like, well, what should I put in it? I don't know. What do you want to paint? You know what I mean? Like, this takes those questions away. It's like, buy this box, paint this box, play this box. And so I think there's certainly an opportunity for this to be a good entry point for some people. I mean, there's some people that might come over that maybe we're playing 40K and they're not daunted by 200 models, right? And list construction. You know what's funny? I don't know where I read this, but recently I read something about like the difference between a game like Kings of War and like 40K. They said 40K is a list versus list game, and Kings of War is a player versus player game. I thought that was illuminating. It was a little bit of okay. Yeah, I haven't been able to say it in that way before, but it does make sense that there is a lot more player agency and skill that impact the game in a game like Kings of War. And there's player agency in 40K as well, but I think your list is more important in that game versus our game. So again, and so Steve's bringing up another point that we did ask about, if you could use the companies in Kings of War, potentially, but like the rules are so different in certain ways, like the stats, no wavering. Like, I don't think it's a direct. It'll be very difficult for them to make a direct port into Kings of War as it stands today. Now, 4th edition, who knows, right? Maybe. And I will say, if you're going to port anything over, the units can port over, right? Because there's no reason why you couldn't just have this. They already do it now, where they have a unique or a legendary unit that maybe is a different size, it has different attacks, and you'll just have to give it a point cost and give it a waiver value, right? Mm-hmm. But the heroes, I don't know. That's like the way we handle commands and all that stuff. I don't know how we would do that.
Yeah, maybe the base aliens eventually have a one-of troop of cab that's named the same thing as the unit is in Champions, and you get it, and they have an extra nerve or something. You know what I mean? So maybe I think there's probably space for that, but I think the key is going to be do people buy into Champions? Is there that interest in it to make, because designing something, even if you're not designing and building a physical product, design space itself takes capital, right? So to add units into Kings of War, whether or not they're making models or for whatever, that still requires money, right? You're paying someone to write rules, play test rules, design. So just because an army isn't made by Mantic doesn't mean that the designing of that army to function in their game is not taking Mantic resources. So just think about that, is that for those resources to go out, something's got to come in, right?
Yeah, and I think in terms of Champions, that's why I don't think we're going to see anything before 4th edition Kings of War for any porting from Kings of War Champions to and you know what, if I'm being honest, I don't care if it ever comes over, because like I said, I'm not painting a Basilean army. I want to paint a Basilean company, and that's the extent of my dipping into the the so good they're evil army. So
You
but,
say that now.
Yeah, to be fair though, this what Steve brought up is a comment that a lot of people are asking, right? And they have been ambiguous at best in terms of the units themselves, and maybe a little bit more consistent with the answer on the heroes. They've sort of said, well, we will probably port them over, but like, who knows with time, right? If you're working on 4th edition right now, it'll probably be a while because I don't see it coming over before that.
Yeah, I think it's time for us. Let's just play Champions and enjoy it. Let's get it in front of some new players. Let's play test it. Let's do some store leagues. Let's think about, is there a pathway to having a more competitive, environment for it, if that's a way that we even want to go. But let's just enjoy these new cool hero models. The rule book is beautiful. Let's play in Panathor.
The lore is fantastic, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like detailed lore for all the heroes and the unit companies, and it's like, I can't wait for that tapestry to be incorporated into the wider.
Yeah, let's enjoy it. Let's enjoy
fiction,
this while we have it. Yeah.
Well, Andy, is there anything else on your docket of questions?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I'm excited to.
Well, we're getting it next week, so we'll get to play it, and then we'll get back on, and we'll share our,
Yeah, and we're looking at Rob. We're thinking of trying to do some sort of hobby thing about getting your Champions companies painted up. So
right, we've got a lot of questions. Where's the hobby challenge? Well, with Champions coming out, it kind of like threw a wrench in everything, because I know for me that's going to be something I want to work on. So we will be reworking the slow grow, the hobby challenge, however you want to word it, to be more catering towards the smaller games, rather than just the big army scale stuff. So more to come on that, but it's a good time, right? Armada had a great event at Adepticon. Champions was right around the corner.
I would love to start seeing people paint Halo stuff too.
Halo is a banger.
I mean?
Halo is a banger game. I mean,
Firefight,
lots of coverage too on our. We had a lot of. Jeremy didn't get to sit on a lot of it because he was so busy winning games and stuff. But those of us at the bottom tables, like, we had a lot of time to chat about Halo and comparing it, pros and cons against Dead Zone. Mm-hmm. So, and we got the experts to talk about it. So, because I am certainly not qualified to talk about it.
And then we've had our episode about Ronnie Rob, and then we have another episode, right? A couple more episodes coming out for Adepticon. Is that sort of our plan?
Yeah, we'll have one for like Wednesday through Friday, maybe, and then we'll have one Saturday and Sunday. Now, the Saturday and Sunday one may be split into two, because I think Saturday alone we have 4 or 5 hours of content. So it probably too big for one episode.
Yeah.
So, and then we've got other one-off episodes. We have an episode with Tyler Schultz. Everybody knows Tyler, right? Of Dreadpath Zone fame, and the family of Gamer 777 YouTube channel, which is mostly sci-fi. We spend 2 hours talking about sci-fi games, specifically Dead Zone, how it compares to Halo, Firefight, and then we get into their the Gamer 777 guys movement into Kings of War. So there's a few of those kind of one-offs that are long, but yeah, it's a lot of editing. Jeremy, a lot of editing.
Yeah, I'm working through the Thursday day of conversation, so a bunch of really good stuff in there.
Yeah, and Wednesday we should have through Friday should be out Wednesday. And then that'll be a couple hours at least, maybe 3 hours at least. And then we'll see what comes out Sunday. It'll probably be the first half of Saturday, and then maybe the following Wednesday we have the remainder of Saturday plus Sunday. And we have a little short snippet so at the end of the event, everybody's trying to get out of there. We did get a chance to talk to the winner, Jeff Shilkin. So we do have a small little clip with him talking about his experience and stuff. He went 4-1, I believe, 4 wins and a draw. I mean, 4 wins and a loss, excuse me. And so, yeah, a lot of great content coming. And then there's like a million list builders in the tank that we can still pull out, right? Including one with our illustrious co-host here, Andy. Yeah.
And then it's going to be Masters before you know it, and we're going to have a ton of coverage at Masters. 100%, so,
100%. Oh, and we get it, Steve. I mean, if Champions isn't your bag, I would actually discourage people from buying it just to support them. I would say, look, if this game doesn't interest you and scratch you in the right spot, I would probably skip it. Right?
Totally.
Like, literally, because I played it. It definitely is not your normal Kings of War. It's got a different competitive streak in the sense that, or a different set of spice, right? Which is really comes down to the restrictions they put on, how combat works and pushback and stuff, and then in addition the way command orders are applied, or faction orders, I guess is what they're called. So it's different, right? And it's not going to be for everybody. So I would recommend keep watching the Mantic YouTube channel. They will have more videos out this week talking about range and combat and movement and all that. So make sure you're watching, because they're going to be putting it out. And if you guys have questions, jump on our Facebook page, drop them there. We will do our best to get those answered, and we will be back probably next week with a new fresh perspective after having several games under our belt, maybe. But depends, right? Like, depends. Shipping from the UK doesn't always go as intended sometimes. So I'm optimistic we get it next week, but who knows? It might slip into the following week. Jeremy, you got anything?
No, thoughts? Just try it out. Stay tuned for the Masters Minute coming out on how to sign up for Best of the Rest. Please do come if you're at all interested, or if you have questions. You can reach out to me about this year's U.S. Masters. But yeah, it's going to be a great summer, I think. Have fun, everyone who's going to Lone Wolf. Have a good time.
Yeah, I'm going to miss it. I missed the last couple. It's hard to make all the events.
So much on the schedule. It's tough. You can't go to every tournament.
And knowing that we committed to Adepticon, which is a huge thing, right? And then Andy's already said he's going next year, so that's great, to Adepticon. And then Andy and I are road tripping it to Reno, Jeremy. We're driving.
Oh, I love it.
24 hours in the van. We're running the chase wagon. We're going to have all the local players' armies in the van. Mm-hmm. We're like that crew that follows behind the bikes when the bike crashes in the race, and they got to repair the tire. And he's going to waddle out.
I was going to say it's like Cannonball Run, but maybe that's not the vibe you guys are going for.
Well, if you're saying he's like Dom DeLuise and Burt Reynolds, I'll take it.
Okay. You got it, buddy.
Oh, I'm Captain Chaos now.
There you go. There you go. Captain Chaos. Love it.
Oh, man.
Oh, my gosh. Well, on that note, I think it's time for us to close this down. We really appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thanks for watching, guys.
I know it was last minute, but everything kind of hit like the storm started this week where, all right, it's Mantic Kings of War Champions week with a lot of videos and a lot of coverage coming out. We thought, well, let's share our thoughts of the rules. And like I said, if you have more questions, pop over to the Facebook group for Countercharge, and we're happy to answer it. We got the book. So if you got questions about rules or something we didn't explain well, which is my talent to not explain something well, just let me know, and I will try to clarify what I said or what I meant to say on the Facebook group. So, Jeremy, you want to take us out?
Yeah, and for that, remember, always keep counter charging. Thanks, guys.
Or playing in Panathor.
Play in Panathor. Yes, we love it. Do it.
Talk to you guys soon.